Guess what? We have another, yes, you heard me correctly, we have another review of a Junji Ito manga. Are we surprised? No. Are we excited? Hell yes. Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing, as per usual, a review of the latest Junji Ito short story collection, let's call it that. So as many of you probably know, because I know that a lot of people are in this channel because of those videos, and those are some of my most viewed videos, which thank you, by the way, I have an entirety of, a discussion of the entirety of Junji Ito's manga works. He is one of the most well-known and dubbed the master of Japanese horror. He does a lot of body horror, a lot of stories that I believe have some social criticism on them. They are terrifying, but they're actually pretty funny as well. They are a lot gory, it has a lot of trigger warnings, and they can be uncomfortable sometimes for some people, depending on what you enjoy seeing in your horror. So of course, if you want to read Junji Ito, first of all, trigger warnings, go check them out, ask around, see before you do read, and if you don't like body horror, absolutely do not get into his mangas. But as I was saying, I have a ton of videos discussing his works, the order of which you should read them, what they're about, the books, of course, that have come out in English. And the latest one coming out is called Lovesickness, and first of all, it's a gorgeous edition, as per usual. The Junji Ito's editions of Viz Media Signature are always really beautiful. They are in hardback, which is also amazing. And even though this copy is not mine, let's just pretend that it is, because I am the one that reads these mangas. So what I decided to do, as per usual, is to review this manga and to tell you what I thought of the stories and in which part of Junji Ito I feel like it can be read. So if you've seen my video about pretty much the majority of his works, which I'm going to leave linked up above, maybe on a playlist, maybe alone, I am not sure yet, but I tell you that Junji Ito has different types of novels. He has some novels that are cohesive and they're a story from beginning to end, and mostly he has short story novels. And the short story novels can be very different. Can be novels only of short stories that have only little to do with one another and they're just collections of short stories as per usual, or they can be novels of short stories that these short stories have something to do with one another and they're sort of a cohesive story, and you have a big bulk of a short story that is about something and then a big bulk of another short story collection that has to do with something else inside of the same collection. And that is where I believe Lovesickness is inserted in, because Lovesickness has majority of 3 components. One of it is very, very small, and it's the last component of the story, which I'm going to leave to the end, of course. It wasn't actually my favorite, but we will discuss it when we get there. And then the first component is the stories, the collection of stories that are sort of a complete cohesive story on their own, and they are the stories that give the title to this collection called Lovesickness. And then we have another cohesive bulk of short stories about something else completely different. So because of that, I'm just going to divide my review into 3 parts and talk a little bit about this. I also want to preface this video by saying that this is not my favorite Junji Ito, but it's up there with them. It was pretty cool, and I enjoyed mostly the first part of this. The third part, not really, and the second part was more funny than spooky, but we'll get there. So the first part of this short story collection was my absolute favorite. It's about this village where there's fog all around everywhere, and these people, particularly students but also grown-ups, go to the intersections of the village shrouded in mist, and they just wait for the first person to pass along in the intersections, and they cover their face like with a book or with something like this, and they say, "Excuse me, can you tell me, I have this problem, can you tell me like my fate, what I should do?" So it's a lot about fate reading. It has a lot to do with ancient Japanese traditions, from what I understand of reading this and doing a little bit of research. it could be common in villages maybe, or in places with not that many populations, that you actually do this. And basically, if you're given a good fate, it's cool. But there's been this mist boy that apparently looks like this, that people say it's beautiful, which I don't really agree. I think it's creepy as hell, but he's been giving ill fates to younger women, and so they are committing suicide or they are dying in unexpected ways because of it. And the stories that have to do with this mainly follow our main character. He is called... Ryusuke. Ryusuke? We're gonna go with that because I don't know how to pronounce this. But Ryusuke is just moving back into that village after a time away from there. And he knows that something is up because he has a tragic past related to ill-fated prophecies on intersections, which I'm not going to tell you about because it's really fun to understand, even though you discover it in the beginning, mostly, of the stories. And yeah, so it develops through there. I think it could also be viewed as a criticism of how we sort of wait for other people to do our job for us and to tell us what we should do instead of taking action and instead of doing what we feel like we should do. Because normally when you flip a coin, if you do flip a coin, you already know what you want to do on the inside, and you're just leaving your decision to luck because you're too afraid to make a decision. And as someone with anxiety, I understand that very much. However, we have to take control of our decisions, our actions, and we have to try and live by ourselves without the help of others, because we are putting our good luck, but also our bad luck, into the hands of others. And I think that's the main premise of this, even though, as I told you, I tend to interpret Junji Ito's stories a little bit of as social criticism and metaphorically, but maybe they're really not, and they're just scary to be scary. I don't know, I like to interpret them this way. The second bulk of short stories are not as cohesive as the first bulk, and they surround this family of, how many were they? I believe 6 brothers, so 3 sisters and 3 brothers. Yes, that was the point. And that family is just completely deranged. There is a lot of topics to choose from on those short stories. We have seances, we have abuse between brothers, which was not really fun, but it was just so strange that it wasn't creepy as well. It was just really strange. It has to do with power plays in families and how family dynamic works, because of course in Japan, and normally around the world, or in Japan a little bit more, you have all of the situation of the elder brother, in case of the parents being gone, which is the actual case, is the one that is supposed to be the head of the family, and the others have to do what he says. But what if they don't want to? And it's a bit on how every single member of that family is completely deranged. And it's funny. It has some trigger warnings, of course, as all of Junji Ito's stories have, but it's more funny and unbelievable in a way than the rest of the story. I found the intersection stories more creepy because even though it's fiction and it's paranormal at a point, it's not actually... It's creepier. I don't know, it affects me more than the other type of the stories. So I enjoy them, they were funny, but they weren't incredible, in my opinion. And then the last part of this is an actual collection of 3 different short stories. The first 2 I really enjoyed, they were creepy, they could be funny as well, and of course I do believe there was social criticism in there. The last one, I don't think I even understood that story, which, I mean, I don't find myself the most intelligent cookie in the batch, but I am not dumb. And I just read that and I thought, well, this man just... yeah, he's gone. His mental stability is gone. So one of the stories has to do with a person inside a house that feels pain on him in different places of the house, which was very creepy, very strange. he had a lot of employees working for him and just massaging different places of the house in order to make the pain go away. And then it took a turn completely. And it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I am not actually sure of what it means, if it's just a short story for the sake of being creepy, or if it actually has another meaning, but I really can't decipher it yet. So I would love to reread it, and I would also love what you think about that short story if you have read this, because it's a cool one in my opinion. Then we have another one that is obviously a social criticism to aesthetically pleasing paradigms of beauty for women in society. It has to do with rib surgery and is creepy as hell. It has cool imagery. It's just really awesome, and I really enjoyed it. Even though it's not one of his strongest stories, it was creepy and cool for those of you that like to watch body horror. That was on point, and I really enjoyed it. And the last story, I don't even know how to talk about this, because the last story in this collection has to do, it's like a 3-4 page story, something like that, and it has to do with a rubber poop. Yes, you heard me, a rubber poop. Do I know why? Absolutely not. I cannot see any creepiness in this story. I cannot see any metaphorical sense in this story, except perhaps sometimes we do things we're ashamed of, but I mean, I didn't need that. And it just, I was reading it and I just came out of 2 really cool short stories, and then I went into that, and it was the ending of this, and it was such an anticlimactic ending for me. I mean, this is a great collection of short stories, maybe not his best. I would argue that maybe his best could be something along the lines of Shiver for people that have never read him. Maybe Smashed? I don't know. I really love those short story collections, but the poop story is just, it makes no sense. I mean, maybe that's the case. Maybe the case is for it to be unpleasant for the reader and to actually shock the reader, because we as Junji Ito readers are used to have gory stories and violent stories, and sometimes funny violent stories. But the poop story was just really strange. Our main character had no face, so we don't know if it's supposed to be autobiographical. I mean, if it is, fine. But if it's not, why? What? I don't know why it's here. I don't know why it's here. And I am making maybe a bigger deal out of this than it was supposed to. But, and of course, even The Worst by Junji Ito is better than some other horror things that are out there. But it was just so unnecessary and so strange, and as someone that is used to the quality of his writing, it was a bit of a shock. But I mean, do not let that deter you from actually buying and reading the other stories, because they are pretty cool. So yeah, guys, that was all my thoughts on Lovesickness by Junji Ito. I do believe that until the end of the year, there is going to be one more Junji Ito coming out, so you already know I will be doing a review for that one. So if you've read Lovesickness, if you enjoyed it like me, or if you hated it and want to comment on why, just don't spoil people or warn people that you're going to talk about spoilers, just tell me something in the comments down below. I always love to discuss Junji Ito with you guys, because I think it's something that you enjoy, and I do enjoy as well. So that's going to be all for today, and happy readings to you all. Bye!